in general, is your impression now, was OpenAI doing enough in terms of its safety procedures and protocols to adequately vet its own products and to protect the public?
I think it depends entirely on how rapidly their research progresses.
Hello, all. Jace here. There's been a lot of debate and news lately surrounding artificial intelligence technologies, and the U.S. Senate has recently started holding hearings to discuss potential regulation and oversight. So I thought we'd take a shallow dive into AI and let you guys know my thoughts and see what you think. Now, first off, we got to start with some of the advantages of AI, because there's no doubt there's advantages. You know, largely it can be used as a backstop, to reduce human error and increase accuracy and precision in different things. Robotic surgery systems is a really good example of where, utilizing AI has actually led to positive outcomes. It's available 24/7. Anytime you need it, it's there. The digital assistant aspect of it cannot be understated. It is such a useful tool. People use it every single day with, their work and school projects and outlines and things like that. And it's extremely helpful, due to the interactivity, between the program and the user, to drill down on specific areas or questions that you may have, to enhance the information that you're receiving. It's really a very useful tool. And I'll tell you, I decided to kind of get into it, and I thought, well, let's just use ChatGPT. It's not something that I'll use it on occasion, but not something I've really delved into. So I thought, well, let's try it out. So I just put in there, give me an outline for a podcast on AI or on the pitfalls of AI, the dangers, I think is what I said, and it came up with like an 8-week or 8-episode podcast schedule. You can see here, talking points, different different discussions, interview suggestions, all kinds. I mean, really neat. And it even came up with a title that I might actually steal for the video, because I think that's a great title. But as you can see, it's very useful. I put in, give me an outline for a murder mystery novel, based in Texas. And I mean or I think it said based in Oklahoma, but it gave, and I think it should be up here. Yeah. It gave main characters, settings, the plot outline, the reveal, themes and motifs. It gave a full breakdown. Like I said, it's not something that you want to steal from. You don't want to just copy and paste, which is what a lot of people are doing. But it can help you as you're doing things, like with the title, it can help point you in the right direction or remind you of something that you've forgotten. So there's no doubt it is a very helpful tool. AI also leads to, innovations and new inventions. Take the Tesla, take self-driving cars, things like that. Those are great new inventions. Now, let's get into the current dangers of AI. Number one, and this will always be a danger of AI, it is software created by humans. These the machine learning algorithms and the deep learning models that underpin AI development. They're always going to be subject to the biases of the developers, and you can see that in ChatGPT. I started doing a little digging. I started just searching different Trump topics, and you could tell from the answers that it gave me that it had a left-leaning bias. And you wouldn't think a computer program would, but you got to remember, these are programs that are written by human beings. So it is always going to be prey to the leanings and the biases and the beliefs of the developer. It always will be. AI is often being used to launch cyber attacks. It can clone voices, generate fake identities, and create, really convincing phishing emails, things like that, to scam and hack people. It's being utilized every day right now. The AI powered automation, could very realistically and probably and almost certainly will, displace workers and disrupt the job market. And there's pros and cons to that debate, but it is a danger of AI. I think most importantly, right now, there is a glaring lack of transparency and accountability from the developers. Companies like OpenAI, Meta, Google, they're clamoring not only to beat each other to the next big advancement in AI, they're also competing with China, for that market share. These AI models are extremely complex, and they're very difficult for even professionals, in the industry to dig into, examine, and understand. Each other's competing technologies. It's very difficult. There's a lot of things that can be hidden in there. You got situations like Microsoft had a breach where one of their developers released terabytes of data. It also opened the door to the source code where somebody could go in and manipulate it. So and who knows if that could ever be found or how long it would take to be found. It's very complex. While all this is going on, our government is only now holding hearings to understand how to regulate and govern the use and implementation of the new technology. The thing that gets me is how is AI being openly offered to the public if our government has no idea what might be going on behind the screen and how it may be negatively impacting our lives. Now, Helen Toner, she's the director of strategy at Georgetown's Center for Security and Emerging Technology. She was recently questioned by Senator Josh Hawley, one of my favorites, during one of these hearings. And this is what she had to say about the risk of serious problems arising from our haste, to develop AI.
That help us not only be subject to these market pressures.
Just in general, is your impression now, was OpenAI doing enough in terms of its safety procedures and protocols to adequately vet its own products and to protect the public?
I think it depends entirely on how rapidly their research progresses. If their most aggressive predictions of how quickly their systems will get more advanced are correct, then I have serious concerns. If their most aggressive predictions may well be wrong, in which case I'm somewhat less concerned.
Let me finally, because I want to be mindful of the time and I've got colleagues who want to ask questions, let me just end with this. You in your written testimony, you make, I think, a very important and helpful point about AI development in China and why the competition with China, though real, should not be taken as an excuse for us to do nothing. Could you just amplify that? Because we've heard a lot of folks sitting where you're sitting over the last year and a half raise the China point and usually say, well, we mustn't lose the race to China. Therefore, it would be better if Congress did little to nothing. You think that that's wrong. Just explain this to us why.
I think that the competition with China is certainly a very important consideration, and we should be keeping a very close eye on what they're doing and how U.S. technology compares to their technology. But I think it is used as an all-purpose excuse to not regulate and an all-purpose defense against any kind of regulation. I think that's mistaken on a few fronts. It's mistaken because of what's happening in China. They are regulating their sector pretty heavily. They are, scrambling to keep up with the U.S. They are facing some serious macro headwinds in terms of economic problems, access to semiconductors after U.S. export controls. So China, has its own set of issues. We shouldn't treat them as, just absolutely raring to go and about to pass us at any moment. And I think it also totally belies the fact that regulation and innovation do not have to be in tension. This is a technology, AI, that consumers don't trust. There's been recent consumer sentiment surveys showing that if they see AI in a product description, they're less likely to use the product. So if you can implement regulation that is light touch, that increases consumer trust, that helps the government be positioned to understand what is going on with the technology, you can regulate in really sensible ways without even impacting innovation at all. So then it's irrelevant, if it's going to affect the race with China.
All right. So that's what she had to say, and I think that's a very, level-headed and moderately cautious take on the situation. One of the things they talked about a lot in these hearings was China. China's AI development, things like that, and so, some of the biggest fears with this with China's AI in particular, is that it's largely believed to be developed and implemented to further suppress their state, which is already very heavily suppressed. They think that it could that it will not protect sensitive information. It can enable mass surveillance and censorship. How much would our friends on the list or on the left, love having a tool that could further censor us? And it can spread misinformation, that can make countries vulnerable to coercion. But don't, I'm sure some of you are asking yourself why you're listening to me, and you shouldn't listen to me. I'm an idiot. But here's what some of the experts had to say about AI and the potential risks. In the Scientific American, they did an article on it talking about some of the risks, and you can see here, in a 2023 survey of AI experts, it found that 36% that fear that AI development could result in a nuclear level catastrophe. Now, they had an open letter written by the Future of Life Institute, signed by 28,000 people, including, Wozniak, Musk, asking for a 6-month pause or a moratorium on new advanced AI development. Now, recent developments in AI even further illustrate why this level of caution and this moratorium probably does need to take place. Recently, OpenAI, they're the manufacturer or the developers of ChatGPT. They were testing a new iteration of their software, and they found that it lied and schemed to avoid being shut down on its own. You can see here on this MSN article, they created an oversight mechanism that could potentially shut the program down. Well, the AI went in and tried to disable that oversight mechanism. On top of that, it started to replicate itself in fear that it may be shut down. I mean, this is scary stuff. This tells you that we do not have complete control over this technology. There is still a lot to learn. There is still a lot of danger. So in closing, what I'll say is AI, it's an incredible technology. It really is. But it is still in its infancy, and, it has tools that could and can make our lives better. However, it has not been researched nearly enough. And there is, as of now, little to no government regulation and oversight to ensure that this technology is not going to harm our population much more than it could ever help it. This open letter, written by the Future of Life Institute calling for the moratorium should absolutely be implemented. For now, I would recommend that you are very wary when you're using AI, and that you probably want to stay away from the new iterations if they become available to the public, until they've been further researched and until there's some regulation guaranteeing our safety, at least to the extent that it can be guaranteed. I want you guys to think about some of these things. How many lives could have been saved, if we just waited a tick, if we just held off, before we put asbestos in the insulation in every home in America, or lead in the paint. How many lives did that cost us? Even the experts say that this technology could lead to the end of civilization itself if it is not monitored closely and regulated. I think we need to listen to the experts on this one. Normally I would probably disagree with that, but on this one, I think we need to listen to the experts. This is a potentially useful tool that is still very early in its development and catastrophically dangerous if it's not done correctly. So if you want to use it, like I said, I think ChatGPT, things like that, I think they're useful tools. I would just say I would advise caution, and some of these new ones, until they vetted them out better, I would stay away from them. Thank you guys so much for watching. God bless, and we'll see you for the next one.